My brother got my wife pregnant, and she left me for him. But my parents blamed me for this and sent me an email with a PDF attachment titled Baby Expenses, totaling over $20,000. So I laughed in their face and told them no. My name is Stan, and I've always been the responsible one. Growing up in a modest suburban home with my younger brother Max, I learned early on that life wasn't going to hand me anything on a silver platter. While Max got the new clothes and the latest phone models, I wore hand-me-downs and worked part-time jobs through high school to buy my own things. I remember when we were teenagers, Max crashed our mom's car while joy-riding with friends. Instead of punishing him, my parents bought him driving lessons, and eventually a used car of his own. When I asked why I never got a car despite maintaining perfect grades and working 2 jobs, Mom just shrugged. Max needs more encouragement to stay on the right path. You're already doing fine. Another time, Max ruined my prom suit the night before the dance by borrowing it without asking and spilling red wine all over it. My parents told me to be understanding and loaned me money for a last-minute replacement. Money they later forgave Max for but made me pay back in full. Despite everything, I pushed forward. I put myself through college while Max dropped out after a semester, claiming it wasn't his thing. I landed a decent job at a marketing firm, rented a nice apartment, and eventually met Danny. Danny and I had been together for 2 years and got married 6 months ago when Max called me crying about losing his job again. I don't know what to do still? He sobbed through the phone. They fired me for being late, but it wasn't even my fault. The bus was delayed, and my boss is a total jerk, I sighed, knowing the real story probably involved his chronic irresponsibility, but he was still my brother. What do you need? I asked. Can I stay with you for a bit? Just until I find another job. My landlord's kicking me out at the end of the week. I glanced around the apartment I shared with Danny. It wasn't huge, but we had a pull-out couch in the living room. Let me talk to Danny, I said. Danny wasn't thrilled about the idea. She'd met Max several times and found him self-centered and dramatic. It's just for a few weeks, I promised. He needs help getting back on his feet. So 2 months ago, Max moved in with his 2 suitcases and endless drama. He sprawled his belongings all over our living room, used up Danny's expensive shampoo, and made little effort to find a new job. I'm researching opportunities, he'd say, scrolling through social media on his phone. Danny tried to hide her annoyance, but I could see it in the tight lines around her mouth when she came home to find Max watching TV in his pajamas at 4 p.m. Last Tuesday started like any other day. I had an important client meeting at 2 p.m., but around noon, I felt a migraine coming on. Blurred vision, nausea, the works. After taking medication that didn't help, I told my boss I needed to reschedule. Go home and rest, she said. We'll move the Roberts meeting to Thursday. I drove home, looking forward to a dark room and silence. When I unlocked the door to my apartment, I heard strange noises coming from the bedroom. Thinking Max might be sick or in trouble, I rushed down the hallway. The bedroom door was partially open. I pushed it wider and froze. There, in my bed, were my brother and my wife, naked, together. Time seemed to stop. Danny saw me first. Her eyes widening in shock. She shoved Max away and grabbed for the sheet. Stan, this isn't, Max turned, and to my complete disbelief, he didn't even look ashamed. He just sat there, covering himself casually as if I'd walked in on him watching TV. What the hell is this? My voice came out surprisingly steady. Danny jumped up, wrapping the sheet around her body. Baby, I'm so sorry. It just happened. Just happened? I repeated. You just happened to fall into bed with my brother? Max rolled his eyes. Oh, come on, Stan. Don't be so dramatic. The casual dismissal in his voice made something snap inside me. 6 months of marriage with Danny, 2 months helping Max. And this was how they repaid me. Get out, I said, both of you, now. Danny started pleading, making pathetic excuses about how Max had come onto her, how meaningless it was, how much she loved me. But Max just laughed. Don't bother, Danny. He was never good enough for you anyway. He looked at me with cold eyes. I love her, Stan, and I'm taking her. She's been unhappy with you for months. I stormed to the closet, yanked out their clothes, and threw them into the hallway. Then I grabbed Max's suitcases from the living room and Danny's gym bag from the closet. You have 5 minutes to pack and get out before I call the police, I said. My voice shaking with rage. They dressed hurriedly, stuffing belongings into their bags while I stood with my arms crossed, staring at the wall. When they finished, I followed them to the door. Stan, please. Danny tried one last time, we need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said, shoving them into the hallway and throwing their remaining bags after them. You're dead to me, both of you. I slammed the door, locked it, and slid down to the floor, finally letting the tears come. I spent that night crying until I had no tears left. My phone buzzed constantly with texts from Danny begging for forgiveness, but I deleted them all without reading. Around 9 p.m., my mother's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated before answering, "Hello? What the hell is wrong with you?" Mom's voice was shrill with anger. I pulled the phone away from my ear. "Excuse me? How dare you throw your brother out on the street? He called me crying, Stan, he has nowhere to go." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, do you even know what happened? Max was sleeping with Danny. I caught them in my bed." "So what? These things happen. You had no right to kick him out of the apartment. He's your brother, for God's sake. He's in love with her, Stan. You should be happy for him." "Happy?" My voice cracked. "Are you serious right now? Listen to me. You have a good job and can find another apartment. Why don't you just let Max and Danny have your place? They need it more than you do." The suggestion was so absurd I wondered if I was hallucinating. "Let me get this straight. You want me to give my apartment to my brother and the wife he stole from me? Are you insane? Don't talk to me like that. You've always been selfish, Stan. You've always been jealous of your brother. Just grow up and do the right thing." I laughed bitterly. "The right thing? Like what Max did? Or what you're doing now? You're impossible," Mom snapped. "I raised you better than this." "No. You didn't. You raised Max to think he can take whatever he wants, and you raised me to let him. I'm done with all of you." "Stan," I hung up before she could say more and immediately blocked her number. Then I blocked Max and Danny too. I'd spent my entire life being the responsible one. The understanding one. The one who sacrificed. Not anymore. Over the next few days, I learned from my cousin Emily that Max and Danny had moved in with my parents. Apparently, they were the new golden couple, with my mother cooing over them at family dinners. "Max is going around telling everyone Danny's the love of his life," Emily told me over coffee. "He's posting these sickening couple photos all over Instagram with captions like 'when you finally find your soulmate.' It's disgusting." "I don't care," I said. Even though I did, it hurt like hell. But I threw myself into work. My boss, Alicia, noticed my renewed dedication. "Whatever's fueling this productivity streak, I like it," she said one day. "The Roberts campaign was brilliant, Stan. I'm recommending you for the senior marketing strategist position." The promotion came with a significant raise in my own office. I decided to celebrate with friends at Riverfront, a trendy bar downtown. My college friend Zoe insisted on buying rounds for everyone. "To Stan, marketing genius, an all-around badass," she toasted, raising her glass. Several drinks later, our group had dwindled to just Zoe and me. I'd known her since freshman year of college. She was my best female friend, the person I called when my car broke down or when I needed honest feedback on a presentation. She'd never liked Danny, calling her suspiciously perfect and too slick by half. "I never told you this," I said, feeling loose from the alcohol. "But you were right about Danny." Zoe's expression softened. "I'm sorry she hurt you, Stan. You deserve better." Something in the way she looked at me made my heart skip. We'd always had chemistry, but had never crossed the line from friendship to something more. That night, the line blurred. I don't remember who suggested going back to her place, but I remember the butterflies in my stomach as we stumbled through her door laughing. I remember the moment our laughter faded into something more intense. I remember the first kiss, tentative, then hungry. The next morning, I woke up in Zoe's bed momentarily confused, then mortified. "Oh my God," I groaned, sitting up with the sheet clutched to my chest. "What did we do?" Zoe handed me a cup of coffee, already dressed in sweatpants and a t-shirt. "Nothing we need to regret," she said carefully. "Unless you do?" I took a sip, buying time. "I don't know. You're my best friend. I don't want to ruin that." She sat on the edge of the bed. "Who says it has to be ruined? Maybe it could be better." I studied her face. The kind brown eyes, the slight worry crease between her brows. This was Zoe, who'd held my hair back when I got sick at a frat party a decade ago. Zoe, who drove 4 hours to help me move into my first apartment. Zoe, who knew all my flaws and liked me anyway. "Are you saying you want to date me?" I asked. She smiled. A hint of nervousness in it. "I'm saying I've wanted to date you since sophomore year, but the timing was never right. I thought about Danny's betrayal, about jumping into another relationship so soon. But this wasn't a rebound with a stranger. This was Zoe. Maybe we could try," I said cautiously, but slowly. She nodded. "I can do slow." She couldn't, as it turned out. Within weeks, we were officially a couple. To my surprise, her parents were thrilled. Finally, her mother exclaimed when she told them. She hugged me tight. We'd been waiting years for her to wise up and see what was right in front of her. Her father clapped my shoulder. "You're already family, Stan. Now it's just official." It felt surreal having parents who actually supported me, who treated me like I mattered. Zoe's family had always welcomed me, but now there was a new warmth in their acceptance. Meanwhile, Max continued posting loved-up photos with Danny. I saw them when I occasionally checked social media. Their smiling faces projected like a perfect couple. In the early days, each picture felt like a knife twisting in my gut. But as weeks passed and my relationship with Zoe deepened, the pain dulled. 6 months later, Zoe took me to the lighthouse at sunset, got down on one knee and asked me to marry her. I said yes without hesitation. We planned our engagement party for 3 months later at Bellini's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. I sent invitations to all my close friends, Zoe's family, and several relatives from my mom's side who'd always been kind to me. I deliberately didn't invite my parents or Max. Some wounds were too deep to mend. The night of the party was perfect. Zoe's mother, Janet, had helped arrange everything, from the soft lighting to the flowers that matched my engagement ring. For the first time in my life, I felt truly celebrated. The next morning, I was still riding the high of the celebration when my phone rang. I almost declined when I saw it was my mother. I recently unblocked her number, but something made me answer. "What do you want, Mom?" I said flatly. "How could you?" Mom's voice trembled with accusation. "How could you have an engagement party and not invite your own family?" I sighed, already exhausted by the conversation. "I invited the family I wanted there. We're your parents, Stan. And Max is your brother, no matter what happened between you two." "You mean no matter that he slept with my wife and you told me to give them my apartment? That kind of what happened? Family is forever, Stan. You don't turn your back on family." "Funny. That's exactly what you and Dad did to me, and what Max did too. That's not fair. We've always been there for you." "No, Mom. You've always been there for Max. There's a difference." She paused, then changed tactics. "Your father was hurt that you didn't invite him to walk you down the aisle. It wasn't a wedding. It was an engagement party. And considering you both took Max and Danny's side, why would I want either of you there?" She huffed indignantly. "You're being childish and cruel. Goodbye, Mom." I hung up and blocked her number again. The months after our engagement flew by in a whirlwind of wedding preparations. Zoe's mother was a godsend, helping with everything from venue selections to cake tastings. Her sister Maya became my unofficial wedding planner, creating detailed spreadsheets and timelines. "You're the brother I should have had," I told Maya one day as we compared best man watches. She squeezed my hand. "Works out perfectly since you're the brother I always wanted." My phone rang one evening as Zoe and I were discussing honeymoon destinations. I didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. "Stan, it's Mom." Her voice sounded strange, tight, and strained. "You need to come to the house right away. It's a matter of life and death." My stomach dropped. Despite everything, they were still my parents. "Is Dad okay? Are you sick? Just come, please, as soon as possible." I hung up. My mind racing with possibilities. Cancer, heart attack, some terrible accident. "I need to go to my parents' house," I told Zoe. "Mom says it's an emergency." She frowned. "Want me to come with you?" "No. I'll be fine. I'll call if I need you." The drive to my childhood home took 30 minutes, each mile increasing my anxiety. What if Dad was dying? What if Mom was seriously ill? Despite our estrangement, I wasn't sure I was ready to lose either of them. I parked in the driveway and hurried to the door. Mom answered immediately as if she'd been watching for me. "What's going on?" I demanded, stepping inside. "Who's hurt?" Mom led me to the living room where Dad sat in his armchair, looking perfectly healthy. Beside him on the sofa was Max. His eyes red and puffy from crying. Relief that no one was dying quickly gave way to suspicion. "What is this?" Mom gestured toward Max. "Your brother needs you." I remained standing. Arms crossed. "Why?" Max sniffled dramatically. "Danny left me." I waited for more, but that seemed to be the entire emergency. "That's why you called me over here? Because of Max's relationship problems?" Mom nodded gravely. "There's more. Danny's pregnant." I looked at Max's tear-streaked face, then at my parents' worried expressions. "And? Danny's gone," Mom said, as if I hadn't heard the first time. "She moved to Arizona. She's refusing to marry him or support the baby." I shrugged. "What does this have to do with me?" Mom and Dad exchanged glances. "Well," Mom said, "this is partly your fault." The statement was so absurd I thought I'd misheard. "My fault? How exactly is Danny getting pregnant by my brother my fault?" "You should have warned him about what kind of woman Danny was," Mom said. "You knew her better than anyone." I stared at her, speechless. Then I started laughing. I couldn't help it. "Let me get this straight," I said, when I could speak again. "My brother sleeps with my wife, steals her from me, moves in with her, and gets her pregnant. She leaves him, and somehow this is my fault because I didn't warn him that the woman he stole from me might not be trustworthy?" "Don't twist my words," Mom snapped. "You know what I mean?" "I really don't." Dad leaned forward. "Your brother needs help now, Stan. This isn't the time to hold grudges." I looked at Max, who was watching me with that familiar manipulative expression I'd grown up with. The one that had always worked on our parents. "What kind of help are you expecting from me?" I asked. Financial support. For starters, Mom said, Max can't work right now with all this stress, and he'll need money for the baby when it comes. No, I said simply, I'm not giving Max money. Danny's pregnancy isn't my responsibility. Mom stood up, her face flushed with anger. How can you be so heartless? This is your niece or nephew we're talking about. And Max is the man who betrayed me in the worst possible way, who you defended and supported in that betrayal. Why would I help him now? Because he's family, Mom shouted. That excuse doesn't work on me anymore. I turned to leave. I'm sorry about your situation, Max, but it's not my problem. I left to the sound of my mother's indignant protests, feeling lighter than I had in months. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up to them without backing down. For the next week, I threw myself into wedding preparations. Janet and Maya helped me finalize the floral arrangements and menu selections, while Zoe handled the music and photographer. Then, on a quiet Saturday morning, while Zoe and I were enjoying coffee and planning our honeymoon, an email notification popped up on my phone. Oh, no, I gasped when I opened it. What is it? Zoe asked, concerned. I handed her my phone. It was an email from my mother with a PDF attachment titled Baby Expenses. The document was meticulously organized, listing dozens of items: prenatal vitamins, $150 per month, childbirth classes, $300, maternity clothes, $800, doctor's visits, $200 per visit, hospital delivery, $10,000. Crib, $500. Stroller, $350. Car seat, $200. Diapers, $100 per month. Formula, $150 per month. The list went on and on, totaling over $20,000. At the bottom was a note, as we discussed, since Danny's abandonment of Max and your future niece/nephew is ultimately your responsibility, we expect you to cover these expenses. Please arrange payment as soon as possible, Mom. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. They can't be serious. Zoe's jaw had dropped open. This is beyond ridiculous. It's delusional. What should I do? I asked, feeling a headache coming on. Ignore it? Block them again? I considered it. But something about this latest absurdity demanded a response. No. I'm tired of them thinking they can manipulate me. I composed a reply. Mom, I will not be paying any expenses related to Danny's pregnancy or child. This situation is a direct result of Max and Danny's choices. Specifically, their choice to betray me by sleeping together while Danny was still my wife. Neither I nor my fiancé will provide financial support or any other form of assistance. Please do not contact me again regarding this matter or any other. I no longer wish to have a relationship with you, Dad, or Max, Stan. I hit send, then blocked their email addresses and any other contact methods I'd missed before. There, I said, feeling both relieved and sad. It's done. Within 30 minutes, my phone started ringing with calls from my parents and Max. I silenced them all. When they couldn't reach me by phone, they started calling my friends and extended family. My cousin Emily called confused. Your mom is telling everyone you're refusing to help your brother and his pregnant ex-wife because you're jealous. What's going on? Similar calls came from other relatives and even old high school friends. My parents were apparently on a smear campaign, painting me as cruel and heartless. I'm so tired of this, I told Zoe after the 5th call. They're twisting everything. Then set the record straight. She suggested, you have the receipts, literally. After thinking it over, I decided she was right. I posted a lengthy explanation on social media, detailing everything from Max and Danny's betrayal to my parents' defense of them, culminating in their demand that I finance Danny's pregnancy. I attached screenshots of the expense list as proof. The response was overwhelming. Friends and family members expressed shock at my parents' behavior. Even relatives who had initially believed their version reached out to apologize. I had no idea, my Aunt Susan wrote. Your mother made it sound like you abandoned Max in his time of need. I should have known better. For about 2 weeks, things were quiet. The wedding was approaching, and I was immersed in final preparations. Then, on a Saturday afternoon, there was a loud knocking at our door. I peeked through the peephole and groaned. It's my parents. Zoe came to stand beside me. Want me to get rid of them? No. I'll handle it. Maybe we can finally end this. I opened the door to find my mother, father, and Max standing in the hallway. Mom started shouting before I could speak. How dare you humiliate us online? Taking family matters public like that? We raised you better. I let her rant without interruption, watching as her face grew redder and her gestures more animated. Dad occasionally nodded in agreement, while Max stood with a pitiful expression, playing the victim perfectly. When Mom finally paused for breath, I spoke calmly. Are you finished? We're just getting started, Dad said. We're not leaving until you agree to help your brother, I laughed softly. That's not going to happen, you selfish, ungrateful, Mom started again. Stop. Zoe stepped forward, her voice firm but controlled. You've said enough, and I won't let you bully him anymore. Bully him? Dad scoffed. We're his parents. Parents who've consistently favored one child and expected the other to sacrifice everything? Zoe said. Parents who defended their son's betrayal and now want to make Stan financially responsible for it. That's not parenting. That's abuse, Mom gasped dramatically. How dare you? It's time for you to leave, Zoe continued. If you don't, I'll call security. You wouldn't dare, Dad challenged. Zoe pulled out her phone. Try me. They left, but not before Mom delivered a parting threat. This isn't over, Stan. You'll regret turning your back on family. After they left, several relatives called to report that my parents were still badmouthing me. Some had even seen my mother and Max outside their church with a handwritten poster claiming Stan Jenkins abandoned his brother and unborn child. They're unbelievable, I told Zoe. But I'm done caring. Our wedding day arrived 3 months later. Despite my parents' drama, it was everything I'd dreamed of. We held the ceremony and reception at a beautiful lakeside venue, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us. Zoe had hired security, just in case. Her foresight proved necessary when my parents and Max tried to crash the reception, poster in hand. The security guards calmly but firmly turned them away. Your family's here, Maya told me, gesturing to the gathered guests. The real one. She was right. Looking around at the smiling faces of friends who'd become family, and in-laws who treated me with more love than my own parents ever had, I felt complete. Zoe and I left the next day for our honeymoon in Hawaii. 2 blissful weeks of sunshine and new beginnings. Months later, I heard through Emily that Danny had given birth to a boy. My parents and Max were helping raise him, complaining constantly about their financial struggles and their heartless son who wouldn't help, but their words no longer hurt me. I had built a life with a woman who respected and loved me, surrounded by people who supported us. I had broken free from the toxic patterns of my childhood and found happiness on my own terms.